Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Maureen and I am so excited that you're here. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, press the like button, and also don't forget to press the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video. So today, as you can see, I've got my lovely husband over here. So you know it's going to be something about relationships. So join me and hear what we've got to say. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a very important subject, especially in marriage and relationships, one that can make or break a marriage, and that's finances, money, like how we are handling money, whether you're handling it together or not, financial transparency, and all that, right? So I mean, a lot of the things that we bring into marriage comes from the like things we saw growing up, our environment. So, what was your view about money in marriage before you got married? And like, how did you handle like your finances before we got married?
Yeah, so I think I'd say one of really the foundational views about how money ought to be handled in marriage just came from all these stories that were like everywhere growing up about or such a guy, they went, they earned the bonus, and then they disappeared for a whole week and did not show up back home, and then they came back home 1 week later and all the money was gone. And many other such stories which are really just I help to form my views of, well, I guess this is what not to do with money when you get married. And then I think just looking back, one of the key foundational moments for me just before we got married was premarital counseling that we did. And one of the things that was emphasized by the clergyman is that financial transparency is going to be really, really key in marriage. Lack of transparency just breeds suspicion, and suspicion, it's just a poison that just poisons the relationship. And so going in, I knew that all cards had to be on the table when it came to money. I'd say before I got married, can't really say. I guess the money that I earned at that point, I was more concerned about, hey, let me use this money that I'm earning to help, lift up the family and help out with things around the family. And so that's how I viewed money there. I didn't really have a long-term plan, call it that, before I got married.
Well, on my part, I guess I've always viewed like before I got married, to me, the person who had the money was the person who had the power, was the person who had the control. So going into marriage, I wanted to have the money, I wanted to have the control. Like having heard so many stories of women being stuck in marriages because they were not financially independent was something I had decided I was not going to be. Like I wanted to have my money so that if ever I decided I was going to, like something was not working, finances was not going to be the one thing that would stop me. So that was my view, right? I wanted to be financially independent. I wanted to have my separate bank accounts. The money that your husband knows nothing about. Okay, that was me. Right. And I know my husband was talking about premarital counseling. To be honest, I don't remember anything from those sessions.
Yeah, if he never pays any attention. If he never pays attention.
oh, I do pay attention. I just didn't pay attention then because for me it was like, okay, this is a box that I needed to tick, right? Um, yeah, and so honestly, I was not paying attention, and my focus really was not necessarily on the marriage, but on the wedding and getting married, right? So I do not remember much from those sessions at all. I mean, he likes to
Yeah.
remind me, but
I,
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, for me, it was a pretty big deal because going in so we got married and we moved to the U.S. and I think one of the things which I knew I had to be really intentional about was say, hey, uh, this salary that I'm earning is our money. We both have full control of the bank account, and in fact, you as my wife, you have full control or decision making rights about what to do with this money. It's our money together. It's not my money. And that's something which I knew I had to be really intentional to do.
And that was really difficult for me. Honestly, like like we are a one income family, so I wasn't working then, and for me it was like, okay, we were a one income family, and to me that was like really difficult in the sense that I had I had the impression that the person who had the money was the person who had the control. And so not working, I felt like I did not have any control. I did not have any power in the relationship. And as a result, I kind of felt inferior, not because of anything that my husband did or said, right? He was very transparent about like his income, like bank accounts, everything. But because I had grown up with that view that if you didn't have your own money, you did not have control. You were at the mercy of someone else. I kind of felt like I was at your mercy, right? So for the longest time, even though he was very clear about how it's our money, I did not necessarily view it like that.
Yeah, and yeah, it's one of those things I had to put in practice. So I already had a bank account in the U.S. from doing some of the short-term work assignments before we got married, and after we moved, made it a point to make sure that the bank account got changed into an account not for me but for both of us, so that we both had full access and full powers to do anything on that account. It became a joint account.
Yep. I mean, even though we had a joint account, right? Even though I knew how much money was coming in and how much money was going out, um, I did not necessarily like feel I had the power to control the money that was going out. Like I would not necessarily spend on myself, but whenever my husband suggested something or wanted to give someone money, I did not necessarily feel like I could say no, right? Because in my view, it still was not necessarily like our money. It was still his money, and I kind of gave him like his view as the majority view, right? Like whatever he said, we needed, I needed to comply with, so to speak.
Can I get that power back?
Too late. Too late. So yeah, so it took us a while you know, to kind of get on the same page about finances, right?
Yeah, I think I would say it did, and you know, one of the like I said, one of the ideas which I had coming in was, you know, my wife would be really good at planning out what to do with this money. And again, it was just coming from that background in childhood, hearing all those stories about those husbands that earn money and then the check for cotton comes, for the cotton harvest comes, and then they go to the GMB depot, they pick up the check, and they come back home with just a few bags of groceries, and all the other money is gone. When all when the wife said, "Oh, these are the meaningful things that they plan for. Hey, this is what the right thing to do with the money. Plan out for fees, for all this." And so coming in, I had this idea that when it comes to planning out what to do with money, my wife is going to have some really good plans.
And because my husband was an accountant, I so assumed he knew how to handle personal finances. Now, let's make that clear. Those two do not necessarily go hand in hand. Right. So it took me a minute to also realize that yeah, you know,
Uh,
he needs help.
yeah, and I think that's a really good point. You know, I had a very short window by which I looked into the future, and still to this day, to admit it, my wife has a far longer window in which she looks at the future than I do, and it's just the reality. And so back in the day, when she thought that I was as strategic as she was, yeah, I mean we did not make some financial decisions which made long-term financial sense. And yeah, she she trusted me for a skill which I did not have, that long-term strategic vision for personal finances. It's an area where she's far stronger than I
Yeah, it was kind of shocking for me. And it still is on some days.
do.
I have
Mm,
to
yeah.
admit. But I think the change for me came when I think we had our first child, and I kind of like was forced into really looking at our finances, because now I had this other person that, I mean, we were both responsible for, not just now, but for the future. And all of a sudden, everything else, like the way we did things, had to change. And I kind of took control, like really at that point where I was like, okay, clearly whatever it is that we've been doing is not working. We need to find a better way of doing things. So I pretty much took over.
Yeah, and I fully welcomed that. It's something which I had come into the marriage with a mindset to say, yes, my wife will be in charge of managing the income that we earn. And so that was a welcome development from where I stood. My wife just fully embracing this role to say, okay, I'm going to manage the money, and I really like that.
Yeah, he does. I won't lie to you, he does. And that can be a source of frustration for me because he enjoys it way too much. Right? That at times he takes this hands off approach because his assumption is I've got everything under control. And at times I feel like there's like a lot of pressure on me to do things right. And there are times when I just want to not be responsible, right? Like just just do things, like not necessarily thinking about long-term consequences. And that's something I feel like at times I do not have the luxury of doing. And that's been kind of like a source of contention between the two of us, right? Where I'm like, okay, I know you trust me and I know you believe I've got everything under control, but can I just give you this for a minute? And while I give it to you, can you not blow it up?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And so from years of her having managed the finances really well, and me just being able to call it a fly at a high level. It was sort of it's shocking to me that she wants me to be in the details. That you know that and I do try to get into the details, and it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. There's just a lot of detail, and so I end up in a place where I'm content, just knowing the high level, the 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 the, the high levels for okay, this is what our finances look like, high level, but maybe without a lot of that underlying detail where sometimes you really want me to get into.
Yep. And that's like one of the, I guess, ongoing discussions I mean, I won't call it an argument, but, you know, discussion that we have on a regular, where I'm like, okay, can you go into the details? I want you to go into the details because my fear is always, if I cannot handle the finances and I have to turn them back to you, how are you going to manage? Where are you going to start off? I mean, I've tried to write, I guess, a document with all the details, but I still feel like you at least need to have an idea of what's going on not necessarily on a daily basis, but on a monthly basis, not just the high level like yearly, quarterly overview.
And I think that's right. And I think it's just one of those coming to again, just being in this space of the tension of hey, my wife has it covered really well.
Complacency.
No, I'll use a different word. Say that where my wife has it covered really well. And so when I step into those details, everything is sort of neat, lined up. Like, okay, I guess there's nothing for me to do here. So because it's all covered, and so that that's why I've tended to just coast in this high level ish zone.
Okay, so you see what's happening here. This is what happens all the time. Okay, so because he kind of likes to like high level things, he tends to mess up my budget a lot. A lot. Like I like things like detailed, streamlined, right? I know where the money is going. And my issue is always, okay, before you spend the money, can you at least like glance at the budget, right? And then you'll be like, yeah, 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 sure, sure. And then the next thing is like, oh yeah, I went shopping with the kids and I got this and this and this and this. I'm like, uh, did you look at the budget? At that point, it's too late. So I have to like reconfigure everything, right?
That's right. That's right. And I think it gets into one of those areas which can be a little, I don't know, maybe emotional from a parent perspective. Yes, yes. That I know sometimes I can be a really tough parent on the kids, and sometimes when they want there's some of these things that they've been really wanting, I say no to most things, to a lot of things. But then there's the one thing that looks like they really want. I'm like, okay, I guess I can just make their
Okay, he believes he says no to most things.
day. I think
that's
I do.
that's not
I,
necessarily true.
I think I do.
you,
Sometimes.
you say no when you're at home, but the minute you're like, yeah, in, in the supermarket or whatever, you'll be like, okay. And the next thing's like, oh, guess what daddy got us?
Okay, fair.
So yeah, you kind of have that soft spot or blind spot. I don't know, one of the two.
Fair. That's fair.
You tend to give in more to what the kids want than I guess I do,
That's fair. That's fair. I think that's
and they love that.
fair. No, that's fair. I think that's a that's a fair observation.
So I guess when it comes to spending money, we kind of have a system that works for us for the most part, right? Where we've got the joint account, and then we've got our separate bank accounts, right? Where everything comes into the joint account, and then we give each other allowances and bonuses that go into the separate accounts, right? That you can spend whichever way you want.
Yeah, and this is the emphasis point. Uh, with their separate accounts, not for privacy purposes, but just for separate tracking purposes. I have full access. She has full access in that
Well, he
account.
doesn't have full access to all my
Well, I
accounts.
do. I've not asked for full access.
Okay,
Yeah, but I can get it if I want.
I
If
don't
I
know.
Yeah, and you have full access to
Oh yeah,
to
that I do.
to my account,
Yes.
and so you can see exactly how that money is being spent. And I think it's just a really big deal for me. It's one thing which I again, just coming from that premarital counseling, which was not paying attention, to say there needs to be that full transparency, and that was one of the emphasis points that the clergyman said. Say, for any money that you spend, your wife needs to know exactly what you're spending it on. And so that was just one thing we stuck with. We said, okay, well, if I have an account, a separate account that she can't see, well, she needs to see it to see exactly where that money is going, how it's being spent.
Well, I guess that transparency is important. Like, yes, although I have many separate accounts, like he's well aware of them, right? They're not like hidden accounts. He might not know how much is in there, okay, but he's he
Yeah,
knows they exist.
yeah. And not and that again, the emphasis point is not because I've tried to find out and she hides it from me. It's just that it's okay for her to have her own account. And I think maybe this is one of the other really important things. I think earlier on, one of the conversations that you brought up was when we were just talking about this aspect of security, where you're saying, hey, I know we have this joint bank account, but I don't really feel secure.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let's have a separate bank account for you. And I think the scenario that you gave was, well let's suppose we, I don't know, we get into a shouting match, and I just can't be in your presence. Then I might just be stuck, just because I mean, I could go and swipe, but in a worst case, then I could be a really nasty villain and block the joint account. And then in that case, there was this place within it that was feeling vulnerable,
Yep.
and so I said, that's fine. Let's take some of the money out of our joint account, and we put it in a separate account. That's only her account. I mean, I know about it.
Well, this is outside of allowances and
Uh,
like bonuses.
uh,
This is just from savings.
yep, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So this is, outside of those allowances. And so, so we just took some of that, some money from the joint account and put it in that separate account that she controls. I mean, I know about it. It's not a secret, but it was really, really important for her to, to not be feeling vulnerable because, I had all these accounts. And let's be honest, we were fairly newly married. Uh, Lots of stories circulating about, young couples, newly married, going through crazy, crazy things. So it was not at all. She just wasn't crazy. uh, here in America, there's a when stuff happens, it's in the media, and so lots and lots of stories about young people newly married going through stuff and just ending up in really sad places. And so being young, still trying to figure out, well, how do we do this marriage? It was just really important for that we addressed that vulnerability that she was feeling.
Yep, and not only that, it also helped, at least from my view. Not only did I feel like a certain level of security having like money in my own personal account, but also knowing that my husband trusts me enough to have that money like sitting there in my account, right? I
Well,
don't know if it's still sitting there, but just say.
yeah, yeah, no, and I think that's a, I think that's a really good point to say. Ultimately, at the end of the day, um, money, how we handle money as a couple, comes down to trust. That is ultimately what it comes down to. And in all of that, um, I need to be able to trust her judgment on things, and I need to own up to those places where I have weaknesses. That when she points them out to me, that she's not attacking me. Do I have a weakness for stepping in and jumping in? I have a heart for helping out. In some cases, maybe many cases, it's well warranted. I really do. I have a heart for helping out, and in some cases, it's well warranted. Where it's the right thing to do for that person that's in need. But then there's also other cases where it may not be the right thing to do. And this is one of those things that I had to learn the hard way myself. And until I learned it the hard way, it was really hard for me to appreciate that sometimes by jumping in, you could actually be destroying someone rather than building them up. And
Yeah,
so,
and I think it's also hard for me to watch in the sense that you can see like behavior repeating itself, where you can clearly see some people taking advantage of your spouse. And because you know the kind of person that he is, he's likely to jump in anyway. So just ha- like finding that fine balance of saying, okay, yes, we can help, but to what extent? And just being on that same page was kind of hard. Where I think at some point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let him do what he does until he learns, until he learns the lesson. It will be an expensive financial lesson, but he'll learn it eventually, and you did.
eventually I did. And like I said, it was learning the hard way. And you know, the 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 funny thing is not the funny thing. I guess this is how it always happens. Uh, you know, the people that are close to you, the people that actually care about you, those are not the people that take advantage of you. It's people in far circles uh, that and then it comes as a shock when something happens. Like, really, I cannot believe that they just did this. And then you look back and like, yeah, yeah, they they're not part of this core family. And when you look at that, you're like, you know what? Yeah, this is lesson learned. Uh, the core family, those are those are the people that actually care about you. The reason they just don't come to ask for stuff is because they actually care about you. They want you to be okay. That's why they just don't come. But then the that other larger circle, maybe they don't really care about how you're doing, whether they'll just ask for it anyway. it's like just a shotgun approach. Say, if he gives, great. If not, and whether you have it or not, doesn't really concern them anyway. And so it was just a hard lesson. It was a lesson that I needed to learn.
And that's why I think like that financial transparency between couples is very important, because you find that people will always look for the weakest link,
Mhm.
right? So if you're not having those discussions about money, about how you're spending it, on who you're giving it to, you might find yourself in a situation where one person or even both of you are consistently helping in quotations, right? Consistently giving someone money without the other person knowing, right? Because people then tend to take advantage of that situation, and it might end up being just a place where you argue as a couple,
Mhm.
right? Because one person might think they're helping out, and the other person doesn't necessarily also view it like that.
Yeah, and I think that was certainly the case with us until I learned the lesson the hard way. That hey, uh, you know, those people that don't seem to even hold a bit to come and ask you over again and again and again and again for anything and everything, like maybe I mean it was really amazing. So when I started sort of getting it, and my wife was saying, look, it's not because they are not okay. It's not because if they are really in trouble in America, they're in Zimbabwe. If they are really in trouble, they could just go to your parents' house, for example, and they would get help. If they were really in trouble and if they really needed help. But the reason that they will reach out to you all the way in America without any full information is because you are the weak link. Let's be honest. It took me a long time to appreciate that, but if I eventually did,
Yeah, so I guess the most important things with money is being totally transparent and being trustworthy as an individual, right? As part of the couple, part of the marriage, right? And then I don't know what else.
yeah. No, I think really that's the emphasis. Just money is the it's that one thing which can make or break. Transparency and that trust. In many cases, it comes down to money. Most things we do have some kind of money involved, and so just being totally transparent with the money, exactly how much is coming in, how much is going out, and exactly where it's going out. It's going to be, it is really key, found in our experience, and as well as just talking with others and just helping to build that solid relationship within the marriage.
Yeah. And also just learning to plan together, like sitting, like literally sitting down and having like planning meetings, right? On on our goals, like what are we up to this year? What we want to achieve in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. I think it gives a sense of stability and direction to the family as well, because not only are you on the same page, but everybody knows like their role and what's expected of them.
Yep, no, I think that is certainly correct. And for me, it has rung true to say, hey, behind every successful man, there's a woman. And I never used to understand it. Now I do. It, it's not only me who's found out that my wife has a much longer window for strategic thinking. It's also other guys that I've talked to that I'm close enough with to talk about this in detail, and they have noticed the same thing that their wives have much longer strategic windows.
Husbands, listen to your wife. That's basically what he's saying.
Yes, yes,
We tend to think through things very differently,
that is true.
and both opinions are required, they're needed.
That is true.
All right, so that's just a brief view on finances without necessarily going into like the nitty gritties of it, right? So be transparent, be honest with each other, and be truthful, right? So until next time, bye. Take care.